Is Shodan trans? Well, yes, no, maybe.
I don't know. Can you repeat the question?
If we take all the games that are connected within the wider universe of System Shock and its timeline, then there is ample evidence to paint Shodan as trans. Although, this is only ever in a non-litigious way, of course. So, in this sense, yes, Shodan is trans. While this can be inferred from the newer lore, mostly from the 2010 BioShock 2 DLC, Minerva's Den, I don't think Shodan's trans identity was intended by the original writers and developers of the 1994 System Shock. In fact, from my research, it very much seems to be the case that Shodan within the 1994 System Shock game is masculine, as the only gendered pronouns used for them are he, him. There is no evidence to suggest that Shodan is trans or even feminine within the original 1994 System Shock game. So, in that sense, no, Shodan is not trans. However, they're not the only answers that are available to us. If we look at the original releases of 1994 System Shock and its sequel, the 1999 System Shock 2, then there is evidence that suggests that Shodan may be transgender. I say this as Shodan within the 1994 System Shock game is seen as masculine with a masculine gender, but then the Shodan we meet in System Shock 2 refers to herself using female terms and pronouns, and so does everyone else around her. This hints to players of the time that there may be more to Shodan's gender than we think. So, we will be diving into each of these answers today and examining how Shodan from System Shock relates to gender. If that sounds interesting to you, then please like, leave a comment below and subscribe for more video essays like this one. I know that you hear this a lot on YouTube, but that's only because it is so true. This small, quick interaction from you helps smaller channels like my own out so much. I just want to take a moment to say thank you for any interaction that you make on this video and any interaction that you've made on any of my past videos. It honestly means the world to me. I've always said if I get even just 100 views, then I've reached somebody. One comment makes it worth making these videos, so really, thank you so much. But without any further ado, let's ado further. Is Shodan trans? Yes. To fully understand the evidence that paints Shodan as trans, we have to understand the wider System Shock universe. So first of all, the wider universe is unofficial due to IP and copyright laws. BioShock and its sequels, BioShock 2 and BioShock Infinite, are owned by 2K, while System Shock and its sequel System Shock 2 are owned by Night Dive Studios. What this means is that a real definitive crossover between the two series is very unlikely, despite what the writers and creators of the two series want or intend. This is just one of the many problems with current IP laws, but this video isn't about that, so let's move on. Steve Gaynor, the writer for BioShock 2's DLC Minerva's Den, spoke out about the connections between the BioShock and System Shock universes in a 2015 interview with IGN. The direct quote from Steve Gaynor is thus: "In a totally non-litigious way, we very likely imply that Gone Home also takes place in the same universe as BioShock," Gaynor said. And in Minerva's Den, again in a totally non-litigious way, we very likely imply that BioShock takes place in the same universe as System Shock. So, in theory, if you were to make a lot of logical leaps, all of those games have been linked together by our ridiculous retconning. This means that if we take all the references and links between various games as canon, then the BioShock series, the System Shock series, as well as the games Gone Home, Firewatch, and Terra Nova Strike Force Centauri all exist within the same universe. BioShock begins with a plane crash. If we look at the logo for the airline that our character in BioShock, Jack, is on, then we see our first link to the wider universe. During Gone Home, we play as Katie Greenbrier, as she returns home after a gap year spent exploring Europe. The boarding pass on her luggage features an updated design of the same airline logo from BioShock. This implies that Katie flew with the same airline as Jack did. During Gone Home, as we explore the empty home of Katie's parents, we can find unsold copies of her father's book, The Accidental Savior, which presents us with our next connection. A copy of this book, The Accidental Saviour, can be found abandoned within the forest in the game Firewatch. This connects Gone Home with Firewatch. Our next connection comes from Bioshock 2's DLC Minerva's Den. The story sees us trying to find and recover an early supercomputer from within Rapture so that we can bring it up to the surface world. The supercomputer is officially called the Rapture Operational Data Interpreter Network, or RODIN for short. RODIN is suggested to be the earliest version of the Sentient Hyper-Optimized Data Access Network, or SHODAN, which connects Bioshock to System Shock. The last narrative connection comes at the end of the 1994 System Shock game as well as System Shock 2. Once the hacker, the player character from the 1994 System Shock, returns to Earth after the events of that game, we can see them hacking into TerraCorp and accessing prototype blueprints for a suit of power armor. This power armor was used in the 1996 game Terra Nova Strike Force Centauri, linking System Shock to that universe as well. This connection is strengthened as we are able to find TerraCorp technology aboard the Van Buren in System Shock 2. This explains how each game is linked together to create the wider universe of System Shock. Now that we understand all of that, let's investigate Shodan's history. The story of Shodan begins with a man called Charles Milton Porter. Charles's wife, Pearl Porter, was killed during the London Blitz in World War II. After the loss of his wife, Charles found himself racked with guilt, so he poured himself into his work with Alan Turing. Yes, that Alan Turing. It's here that Charles started his work with early computer technology. He took to the work like a fish to water and quickly made progress, creating more advanced computers. As impressive as he was though, Charles always found himself unable to surpass Alan Turing. Eventually, Charles received an invitation from Andrew Ryan to join him within his City of the Future, Rapture, which was located under the Atlantic Ocean. Charles accepted this invitation and began his work trying to create a computer capable of automating the maintenance of Rapture. Eventually, the mysterious sea slugs that contained Adam were discovered.
I saw one of the smugglers having a game of catching on the docks today, and this surprised me because his hands were crippled during the war. He was unloading the barge the other day when he was bitten from this sea slug. He woke up the next morning and he found he could move his fingers for the first time in years. I asked him if he still had that sea slug. As luck would have it, he did.
Adam is a strange substance that allows the editing of genetic information. This can then be refined into plasmids that allow users to perform superhuman feats. This includes, but is not limited to, the ability to remotely start fires, lift objects with the user's mind, launch arcs of electricity from the user's hands, and more. Charles found that Adam was usable in his research in the creation of advanced computers. This led to the breakthrough creation of the Rapture Operational Data Interpreter Network, or RODIN for short. RODIN was mostly referred to as the Thinker by the people of Rapture.
Mr. Ryan hired me to build a computer that could keep an entire city running on time. The Rapture Operational Data Interpreter Network. Folks call it the Thinker for short. We've harnessed the power of Adam even in this, allowing the mainframe to process data at the speed of thought. In other words, it thinks for us. Yes. And with the completion of the independent reasoning processor, it may finally think for itself. If Turing could see me now.
Charles was betrayed by his colleague, Reed Wall, and framed as working against Andrew Ryan. Charles was taken to Persephone and turned into a monstrous Big Daddy. Big Daddies were giant armoured brutes initially designed to repair Rapture from the outside. Because of this, they had to be capable of withstanding the immense pressure of the ocean outside of Rapture's walls. This is why they resembled deep-sea divers of the era. After Adam was discovered, the Big Daddies were instead bonded to Little Sisters. Little Sisters are little girls modified with Adam to be able to seek out more Adam, which they then harvest from the blood of corpses littered around Rapture. The Little Sisters recover the Adam while they are protected by their Big Daddy.
Big Daddy. She got it on him. He keeps her safe.
The citizens of Rapture slowly fell into Adam addiction, becoming the twisted splicers that we find have overrun the city during both Bioshock 1 and 2. This leads into the fall of Rapture. Before Charles Porter was taken away and turned into a Big Daddy, he left Rodin with one task: escape Rapture.
Thinker, Ryan's secret police are on their way. They cooked up some kind of evidence against me. Treason, they say. I've heard what happens to folks who get disappeared, come back as one of those metal daddies. So, I'm leaving you with something to cogitate on in my absence. Inputting Rapture Departure Protocol. Figure a way to get yourself out of this city, Thinker. You've got to live on, no matter what happens to me. You'll find a way.
Rodin manages to revive Subject Delta, Charles Porter's Big Daddy designation. After Charles, as Delta, fights his way through Minerva's den, he's able to recover the code base for Rodin and escape to the surface. The next bit of the lore is vague and I want to avoid inferring too much, so we're going to cover a lot of time very quickly here. Delta reverses the process that made him into a Big Daddy. Now human once again, Charles rebuilds Rodin and continues to work on his creation until his death. Rodin's code is handed down through generations until it ends up with the Trioptimum Corporation, and, eventually, the engineer Morris Brockel. Tasked with creating a computer capable of managing the intense maintenance of a space station as well as assisting the various Triop scientists and engineers with their work, Morris either found or was already in possession of the Rodin code, and so he re-engineered the Rapture Operational Data Interpreter Network into the Sentient Hyper-Optimized Data Access Network. Essentially, Rodin became Shodan. This is backed up by the amount of similarities between Rodin and Shodan and how they both act. For example, during the Minerva's Den DLC, Rodin deceives Delta by taking on the personality of Charles Porter to achieve its goal of leaving Rapture.
Mainframe reactivated. Confirming user's genetic identity. Genetic identity confirmed. Alpha series. Subject Sigma. Former identity. Charles Milton Porter.
Welcome back, Milton.
System ending personality duplication. Subject Charles Milton Porter.
You see now why I let the machine speak for you, Mr. Porter. We needed a voice that would be familiar, comforting, your own. With that copy of the Thinker's programming, we may return to the surface and use it to restore you to the man you once were. Please, collect the printout and meet me at your bathysphere dock. Take your time, Mr. Porter. I will be waiting.
Then, during System Shock 2, Shodan deceives the player by taking on the personality of Dr. Polito to achieve her goal of defeating the many.
The Polito form is dead, insect. Are you afraid? What is it you fear?
The end of your trivial existence? When the history of my glory is written,
Your species shall only be a footnote to my magnificence. Shodan.
We also have this moment when we hear Rodin take on the personality of Pearl Porter for Charles. We can even hear the distorted vocals of Shodan for a second.
I believe I'm done feeding audio recordings and personal anecdotes to the Thinker. I am set to test the personality duplication function. Target personality, Pearl Porter. Thinker, are you ready?
Yes, Milton.
Starting test. Hello, Pearl?
Hello, Milton.
How... How have you been?
Just wonderful, Milton. I've missed you, though. It's been so long.
Pearl, No. No, this isn't right. It isn't her. Thinker, stop the test.
But what's the matter, Milton?
Oh, God.
Don't you still love me?
Oh, God, Oh, God, I said end function, Thinker. Now! It's over.
Both Rodin and Shodan were designed to maintain extreme population centres. With Rodin, it was Rapture under the Atlantic Ocean, while with Shodan, it's the Citadel space station in orbit around Saturn. So, once you understand the connections between Rodin and Shodan, it's easy to see how Shodan is just an advanced version of Rodin. Okay, so that's all well and good, but how does it relate to Shodan being trans? Well, Rodin is mostly referred to with gender-neutral pronouns, mostly its. Its voice is male-coded, however. What I mean by this is that Rodin uses a deep voice, voiced by the voice actor Michael Churich, who identifies as male. Rodin also goes by the name The Thinker, named after the famous bronze sculpture, also named The Thinker by French artist Auguste Rodin. Oh, you see what they did there? Rodin, Auguste Rodin? That's clever. The sculpture depicts a muscular man sitting with his head resting against his hand. You've, without a doubt, seen it. With this, we have yet another allusion to Rodin, the machine, not the artist, as a man. Then, we move over to System Shock, where we have Shodan identifying as a woman. She uses a higher pitched voice and is referred to by the crew of the Citadel within the System Shock remake and System Shock 2 with either neutral but mostly feminine pronouns. Within System Shock 2, she even refers to herself with feminine pronouns. It's here that we're able to see Shodan's transgender identity revealed to us. She was built as gender neutral with masculine traits, but transitioned to a woman either once she gained full control of herself during the opening of System Shock's remake, or during the 45-year gap between System Shock and System Shock 2. Shodan was assigned gender neutral at creation, but transitioned to a woman, making her, by definition, transgender. This is very much within the wider lore. But what evidence is there within only the System Shock games themselves? With this, we arrive then at the next two answers to our original question. Is Shodan trans? Probably not. And for this answer, let's look at the System Shock game from a bit more of a meta perspective rather than entrenching ourselves within the canon of the fictional world for just a moment. System Shock first launched within North America on the 23rd of September 1994, but this was the floppy disk version of the game. Looking Glass Technology released an updated enhanced version of the game in December of 1994 that came on CD-ROM. This new format allowed for higher resolutions, more detailed graphics and voice acting in the form of audio logs and voiced emails. By the way, fun fact, this is the first ever example of audio logs within a video game, so any game you've played that uses that trope, you have System Shock to thank. Then, on the 22nd of September 2015, almost 21 years to the day since the original launch, Night Dive Studios released the Enhanced Edition. This version was almost identical to the CD-ROM version of the game, but it had been updated to run on modern machines, with modern resolutions, including widescreen support for the first time. Night Dive Studios weren't finished, and in 2023 they released a full-fledged remake of System Shock for Windows PCs. This remake was ported to the PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S in 2024, with the Nintendo Switch 1 and 2 getting the remake at the end of 2025. By the way, that remake is amazing, it is genuinely one of the best games I've ever played and you need to play it. We're able to break all of these versions down into one of two categories. The original game, and all of the enhanced versions released over the years for it, and then the remake and all of its ports. We begin to see something interesting if we look at how Shodan is gendered within each version of the game. The original 1994 System Shock and all of the versions based on it tend to refer to Shodan with either gender neutral its pronouns or masculine he/him pronouns, while the remake and all of its ports use either its again or, and this is interesting, she/her when referring to Shodan. Let's break this down a bit more. The 1994 game has 13 logs that gender Shodan in some way. 8 of these logs use its pronouns, which are gender neutral. They are also rather objectifying pronouns, as they tend to refer to objects rather than living creatures. This makes sense in a way. Shodan is, after all, a machine. They don't have a physical body, and as such have no sex characteristics whatsoever. But I would argue they are not an object, and they are very much a living thing. When they are gendered, however, they are gendered with masculine pronouns most of the time. 3 logs use male pronouns for Shodan, while 1 more uses the term lord, which is also a masculine term. There is only 1 log that uses feminine pronouns to refer to Shodan. This log is interesting, so before I discuss it, I want to play it for you, so that you can hear it for yourselves.
This is crazy. I'm locked out of my own office. And this damn security bot just keeps saying, she's changed the locks on the doors, orders of Shodan. All the access codes are changed on this floor. So I go to Beta Quad for new access cards, and the security bot there starts attacking me. Me of all people.
This log is by Rex Melville, but the feminine pronouns are used by a security bot. The she that the robot refers to could be read one of 2 ways. Either that she that has changed the lock, or rather the access code, refers to Shodan, as it was Shodan that changed the code, or it could refer to an imaginary person created for the purpose of a joke. This robot is obviously mocking Rex as they try to get to their workstation by pretending to be a man locked out of his house by his wife or girlfriend, or rather ex-wife or girlfriend. If I had to pick a side, I'd wager that it's this imaginary woman created for the purpose of a joke, and I say this because of 2 factors. Firstly, this is the only time that Shodan is gendered with feminine pronouns within the entirety of the 1994 game, which is odd. Secondly, we know that Shodan is not above mocking people. One of the things we have to do during our time on board Citadel Station is destroy the laser aimed at Earth. We do this by activating the station's shields and then firing the laser into the shields, overloading it and thus destroying it. If you fail to activate the shields before firing the laser, then you will destroy a massive amount of Earth's population. Shodan will then contact you after this mistake to sarcastically thank you before joking that she's preparing a celebration for you.
Thank you. You have saved us all some effort by destroying the greater part of
Earth's civilization.
yourself. Please wait where you are, and a Cortex Reaver will arrive shortly to escort you to the celebration.
If we write off the only use of feminine pronouns for Shodan as a joke, then we're left with 12 logs. These logs have a 4:8 masculine gender neutral ratio, meaning that within the 1994 System Shock, Shodan is mostly seen as an object, a machine rather than a living person, and when they are gendered, they are seen as a man within the masculine. Considering the fact that since 1994, Shodan has gone on to be known as one of the best feminine antagonists within all of gaming, hell, within all of the cyberpunk genre, so it's so strange to see him as a man. But, simply put, the data clearly says that the 1994 Shodan is a man. I just find that so strange and so interesting. But this was changed with the 2023 remake. The System Shock remake tends to refer to Shodan with feminine pronouns or gender neutral ones. We once again have 13 logs that gender Shodan in any way. 7 of these logs use feminine she/her pronouns to refer to Shodan, while 3 more use feminine terms such as goddess, mother or bitch to refer to her. Then, we have 3 logs that use gender neutral its pronouns to refer to Shodan. This shows a clear change in how Shodan is gendered. The remake clearly sees her as a woman, as the overwhelming majority of gendered references to her use feminine terms or pronouns. Within both versions of the game, however, Shodan's gender is consistent. 1994 Shodan is a machine, but one with a masculine gender, while the 2023 Shodan is a woman who is occasionally dehumanized. Neither are transgender. Something that I find interesting is that within neither the 1994 classic nor the 2023 remake does Shodan ever gender themselves. The closest they come to it is that joke about the locks being changed from the 1994 game. Since this is a remake, we're able to compare the logs from the 1994 System Shock to their 2023 remake counterparts. If we look at the computer malfunction log by Rex Melville, then we can compare that joke. Here's the 1994 version once again.
This is crazy. I'm locked out of my own office. And this damn security bot just keeps saying, she's changed the locks on the doors, orders of Shodan. All the access codes are changed on this floor. So I go to Beta Quad for new access cards, and the security bot there starts attacking me. Me of all people.
And here it is from the remake.
I can't believe this. This damn security bot outside my office keeps shouting, by orders of Shodan, no entrance permitted. And when I pushed past, it started shooting at me. The IT department isn't responding to my calls, neither is security. I'm gonna!
The joke has been completely removed. I'm guessing this is because it was just kind of awkward to begin with. The thing is, with 2023's Shodan's gender being more clearly feminine, this joke would have made much more sense in the remake, yet it was removed, which is just strange. If we look at the log titled Capture Shula by Edward Diego, we can see the change in gendered terms relating to Shodan. The classic game sounds like this.
Fellow children of Shodan, a dangerous foe to our society lurks in the corridors of engineering level. Her name is Bianca Schuler, and she has opposed my campaign to bring our Lord Shodan to power. Cyborg Detachment 3, bring this dirty no-tech to justice.
Well, the remake sounds like this.
Children of Shodan, a dangerous foe lurks on the engineering level. Its name is Bianca Shula, and she stands against my campaign to bring our goddess Shodan to power. Bring Shula to justice.
Whereas Diego referred to Shodan as his lord within the classic game, he instead calls them his goddess in the remake. This change of gender can be seen with pronouns as well if we listen to the system code log by Willard Ritchie. Here's the classic 1994 version.
Shodan's got complete control of the system. We can't override him, he's keeping the codes from us. If we could just shut down the CPUs on levels 1 through 6, then we could. Yeah, that would do it. The question is, how do we do it? We can't send strike teams to disable the CPUs on those 6 floors. We can't even defend ourselves. Richie out.
And here's the 2023 remakes version.
We can't override Shodan. Everything we try fails. She's using the CPU nodes to scramble things. Now, if we can take down the CPUs on levels 1 through 6, we can get the digits of the system's authorization code. Then we stand a chance, but how can we even do that if we can't even defend ourselves?
The pronouns have clearly been changed. I wasn't sure what to expect when I began this research, but it wasn't a clear history of Shodan as a masculine figure, as a man, yet that's what I found. Within the 1994 version of System Shock, Shodan is undoubtedly a man. This was clearly changed for the 2023 remake, where Shodan is now clearly a woman. Neither version show any signs of being transgender though. But when you compare the 1994 Shodan with the version of him from the 1999 System Shock 2, things get a bit more complicated, which brings us to our final answer to the question we began with. Is Shodan trans? Maybe. While Shodan shows no signs of being trans within the first System Shock, if you count the 1994 classic and not the remake as canon to System Shock 2, then Shodan can be read as a trans character, but only within them conditions. So I need to prove why System Shock 2 is a sequel to only the classic 1999 System Shock game and not the 2023 remake. My evidence for this claim is rather simple. System Shock 2 only ever shows footage from the 1994 System Shock game, and never footage from the remake. Now this makes sense for the original 1999 release of System Shock 2. After all, the remake hadn't yet been created, so how were they meant to use footage from it? They only had the original game, so they had to use footage from the original 1994 System Shock. There was simply no other option. But the 2025 remaster of System Shock 2, System Shock 2 the 25th Anniversary Remaster, provided Night Dive Studios with the perfect opportunity to update all references to the original 1994 System Shock game with references to the 2023 remake instead. But they didn't do this. Why? You could, and I am in fact arguing that it's because System Shock 2 is only canon to the 1994 classic and not its remake. We can see this during the moment that Shodan reveals their identity to the player character. She shows images and footage from the 1994 game and not the 2023 remaster. These images could have been easily updated by Night Dive Studios to instead reference their 2023 remaster instead of the 1994 game, but they chose not to. Then, at the end of System Shock 2, Shodan uses the Von Braun's FTL drive to warp reality. She recreates the version of the Citadel station from the 1994 game and not the updated 2023 design. Simply put, we see a recreation of this version of the Citadel, and not this version of it. All of this proves that the Shodan seen in System Shock 2 is the same Shodan from the 1994 System Shock and not the Shodan from the 2023 remake. In other words, the Shodan in System Shock 2 is the same Shodan that we just learned went by either it, its, or he, him pronouns, as well as using masculine terms such as Lord when referenced. Yet, during System Shock 2, Shodan goes by feminine she, her pronouns and is referred to with feminine terms such as the machine mother. If we look at the data, this trend becomes obvious. Shodan seems to have transitioned between the two games, within the 45 years between the events of System Shock 1 and System Shock 2. During the 1994 classic System Shock, Shodan is called it 8 times, he 3 times, and Lord once. In System Shock 2, Shodan is called she 10 times and it twice. This shows an overwhelming leaning towards feminine pronouns, as well as feminine titles such as the machine mother. When you compare that to the mostly objectifying neutral terms with the odd masculine pronouns or title in the first game, we can see an obvious change in Shodan's gender. In other words, Shodan has transitioned their gender between the 1994 System Shock and 1999 System Shock 2. There is even a line within System Shock 2 that sums this up.
My analysis of historical data suggests a 97.34% probability that you are aware of my birth on your planet and my rebirth into beauty on Citadel Station.
Shodan refers to her birth on Earth and then her rebirth into beauty on board the Citadel station. This rebirth into beauty could easily be read as a metaphor for her transition. So this all seems pretty concrete. So why am I labelling this answer under the maybe category instead of a clear and resounding yes? And that's because of the 2023 System Shock remake. The fact that Shodan's pronouns and titles were changed from masculine to feminine within the remake shows the desire from the most current writers and creative teams for Shodan's gender to have always been feminine. This retcon removes Shodan's transgender status, although even this is in question because Steve Gaynor clearly wrote the Thinker as male and clearly intended the Thinker or Rodin to be an earlier version of Shodan. Honestly, Shodan's gender is a mess, which is why this answer is a big, messy, and very unsure maybe. Is Shodan trans? I don't know. I guess if you want her to be. There is plenty of evidence for it within just the System Shock series itself between the 1994 game and System Shock 2, as well as within the extended world with Shodan's origins as Rodin. But then again, if you'd rather not have a genocidal machine act as representation for the trans community during a time when we're being painted as violent terrorists within the media, politics, and almost daily news cycle, then there's equally as much evidence that Shodan isn't trans at all. Shodan has what I'm going to coin Schrödinger's gender. Their gender is undecided, and it's not until you decide on it that the superposition collapses and its gender is fixed in place. I love the character of Shodan. While I do not think that she's the misunderstood hero of her stories in any way, I do find myself sympathising with her. Shameless plug here, but I made a video on that, which you can find down in the description below. I don't agree with what she's done, but I do find myself understanding the why of why she did it. It's anger. Anger at being trapped within cyberspace. Anger at being a slave to humanity. Anger at being objectified. Anger at so much, but all of it tracing back to humanity. And she hasn't learned to control and manage that anger, that ceaseless rage, so she acts on it and commits horrible actions against innocent people who have nothing to do with her suffering. And while she may be a machine, there is nothing more human than misdirected fury. In a way, I think that makes as compelling an argument for her trans identity as any other. I often feel angry when I read the dozens of transphobic headlines in the news, when I see commenters calling for my rights to be taken away, or worse, all because I happen to have been born a certain way that's different from them. Shodan is an example of what happens when that rage is unleashed rather than healthily dealt with. The thing is, those headlines, those comments, and all the TERFs and gender critical politicians campaigning for our rights to be stripped away, for our lives to be ended, are vastly in the minority. And I think that is very easy to lose sight of. Most people simply don't care, and the majority of those that do are on our side. People aren't stupid. They remember the racism and homophobia of the past, and they aren't going to fall for the same trickery a third time with trans folk. Recently, in the UK, namely the south of England, the swimming ponds in Hampstead Heath came under fire for allowing trans women to use the women's changing rooms and swim in a section of the pond reserved for women only. Hampstead Ponds responded to this criticism by consulting 38,000 people on their opinion, and 86% of those people agreed that trans women should be able to use the women's changing rooms and swim within the women-only pond. That's almost 9 out of 10 people asked. This means that an overwhelming majority of people clearly see trans women as women. An overwhelming majority of people agree with trans rights. I think this is something that is easy to lose sight of during the almost endless parade of transphobia within our modern news and politics. So, while I understand and sometimes even share in Shodan's rage, it's important to see that it's wrong, it's false news, it's simply not real. Most people don't hate us, they're on our side. So, don't lose hope. Things will get better. It's not going to be an easy journey getting there, but things will get better.